PFC, James M. Herrera, United States Marine Corps, Vietnam. I interviewed James. What an honor. It was December 1st, 2007. I was in Las Cruces, New Mexico, one of the trips I made down there. Met him and a lot of other veterans. And I met James. He served in the United States Marine Corps, like I said. He was 0311. He was a rifleman. I know every Marine's a rifleman, but he was Frontline's infantry folks in Vietnam, 1967, 1968. One of the unsung heroes. I'm amazed. I go back into all these stories that I've done over the years, and he didn't make the cut for the first Vietnam film. Hopefully he'll be in the second one. But these stories have been dormant for over 17 years now, and I'm just so happy. He tells an amazing perspective of combat through his eyes and ears, and I'm just so happy to share his story with you today. He received a Purple Heart, was wounded, lost many friends in Vietnam, and like I said, he's an unsung hero, and he tells it like it is, folks. I want to thank Tom Carlson. Tom has helped sponsor a video before. Tom lives in Norway, folks. He served with the Norwegian Army as an artillery ranger. His grandfather served on a Norwegian destroyer in World War II in the North Atlantic, patrolling against those U-boats out there, German U-boats, and just a great military history in his family. I'm going to meet Tom someday. I really believe, Tom, I will. And I want to thank you, sir. Thank you for supporting my work and our veterans, and just your patriotism towards veterans, and just the fight for freedom, Tom. I so thankful for you working with me, and hopefully we can stay in touch and work again. And I just wanted to acknowledge you and give a shout out to you and your family for their service. God bless you, Tom Carlson from Norway. Amen. Okay, folks, let's honor James Herrera now with this story, and it's one of the things we can do. Is an act of remembrance is an act of honor. So we honor our veterans, we're remembering their sacrifices, and I'm just so grateful. My heart's full. Going forward into 2025 now, hopefully we'll interview more Vietnam vets this year. So if you want to become a part of this work, that's all I'm going to say is I invite you to do it. It's a great investment of your time, of your resources, to help pay back and pay down that debt that we owe our veterans. And I'm just so grateful for all those that have helped to sponsor the stories and to donate to this work. It's been a blessing to work with you. So that's it for now. God bless you. I will see you on my next broadcast. Enjoy James' story. And I think you told me on the phone you were a grunt.
Right.
Why did they call them grunts? Do you have any idea? Just like a nickname, or?
Not just a nickname. I never knew. But we had different names: devil dogs, grunts, jarheads.
What year did you go to Vietnam?
67 and 68.
Okay. How old were you at that time?
I was 20.
20.
And I turned 21 while I was there.
So you're a young man?
Yes.
You're away from home for the first time, probably?
Well, I was going to the university here, and I dropped out and I enlisted to go to the war.
I'm going to move this microphone up just a bit. I can't hear you really good, so let me see if I can put this up a little higher here. Let's see if we can get a little bit better audio. Okay. Don't be afraid to talk up.
All right.
We're not going to be bothering anybody.
All right.
We got plenty of time here. Okay, so where'd you go to boot camp?
In MCRD, San Diego.
And was that a shocker to go through that? What do you remember about your first day at boot camp?
Well, you'll be sorry. That's what I remember. The first, to me, I tried to look at the perspective that I was learning something, so I tried to look at it like that. But I figured that since my uncles had been through that same boot camp, that I could do it too. So, yeah. And I used to wrestle for the university here, so I was in pretty good shape as far as, physically. So, but it was all a lot of mental too.
So you were a rifleman?
Yes, I was a rifleman.
Tell me about when you first went to Vietnam, what you experienced when you got in country.
Well, the most telling thing is we were in Da Nang and we got loaded into transports planes. And as we were going in a pile, we were in our uniforms, well, our jungle utilities, pretty clean. And the people that were coming out were the ones that were going home already, and they had been through there. And you could see it on their face, and the fear, they looked like they were just what you would, soldiers had been through the grind, dirty, and you could see something in their face, which is fear, which is sadness. And that's what struck me most about that day. And because when I came back, the day I came back, I was one of those walking back. And the new guys coming in, I could imagine already what they were thinking, when they were taking my place. But that's what I remember the most. And I didn't get issued any weapons till we got to Dong Ho, which is right around the DMZ. And so I kept thinking of when I would go get a rifle, when I go get something to defend myself.
Sure. I can imagine what you experienced that first day or whatever with what you saw. I mean, I've heard similar stories of like the 1,000-yard stare, just
Yeah.
they'd been through something like you
Yeah.
said, the transformation. And so when were you assigned to a company? I mean, did you go out in the field right away? Or
Well, they gave us what we needed it in Dong Ho, and then we were on our way to the DMZ, which we could see the North Vietnamese flag flying across the river. And by that time, they had given us our rifles, and they were assigning us. They drove us in a truck convoy 10 miles from Dong Ho north to a place called Jiolin. It's was later referred to Camp Hill because my cousin took my place when I left. When we left there, his company took over. But at that time, they took us out to some bomb craters and looked like the moon, just full of bomb craters at DMZ. And we were inside one of those, getting assigned to our companies and platoons. And then we actually got attacked about that time too, with our rockets and artillery. But
was that the first time you came under attack?
yes,
In Vietnam?
yeah.
Was that a difficult time? Or I was going to ask you about your engagement with the enemy the first time, where that was and what happened.
Well, most of the time at that place, Jiolin, since it was within artillery range of the North Vietnamese, we would get daily barrages, and there'd be quite a bit of deaths there by shrapnel, and the people had to get out and counter fire. It was a small base, and it was we would do our patrols around there and everything else. The first, well, any kind of combat you had there, you never seen the enemy. You fired at them. When they fired at you, and you would see bullets hitting, but you wouldn't see them. There was only one instance, and that was months later that I know. That I came, well, I know I killed somebody. It was could have been a 12-year-old kid. I didn't go see him. I shot him, and he died. I remember his I don't know if it was his mother, grandmother, staring at me, looking at me with throwing daggers at me. They had just shot one of my buddies in the back, and he had run across between some hedgerows, and I shot him, and that was it. I didn't go look at, nothing. I just stayed far away. The rest of the guys went down there to see him, and that was the type of war it was. It was where you didn't see the enemy, where you didn't, a lot of times you didn't know what you were shooting at. Even when you were engaged in a firefight, you were shooting into a tree line and like that, or if you got ambushed, you just fire back. Me and we were at the Ashaw, close to the Ashaw Valley. We went on a fire team patrol down. Well, our job was to kind of go down the trails to see how well used they were. And we had left the rest of the platoon at one of the roads that we had graded through the jungles. And it was myself, the fire team leader, and a brand new friend of mine. I called him Mellow Yellow because the first time I seen him, he was full of dust where he was walking on the side of the convoy, and there was yellow dust. And it turned out that he was African American when he was assigned to my fire team, but I called him Mellow Yellow. and anyway, it was his first day there, and so we put him in the middle, and I was at the end. The fire team, we were walking down, and we ran into a squad of NVA coming up towards us. And Mellow Yellow's rifle jammed. Mine got off 2 shots and jammed. And just the fire team leader in the front, he kept spraying. He said, "Get out of here." We couldn't throw grenades because there was too much jungle or anything. So here comes our corporal in charge of the squad running, just like John Wayne, and told us get out of there. No, we had a big firefight that day. I think we killed one that we know of. And things like that.
Now that was the Ashaw Valley, you said?
Well, that was close to. They were going to make a fire base there. That we from it was west of Way City.
Okay.
And they were
Is that also considered Hamburger Hill, or is that what they call, the Ashaw Valley, or do you know? I mean,
no, I think Hamburger Hill. There was another one because the people when I got there in Vietnam, they had just been to that. And a lot of our people got killed there, and that cost a lot of lives, and they were very bitter. The Marines that I went to replace, the ones that were still survived, they're very bitter about that. And they had different hill names on other, but on my reading, I'm pretty sure they had called it something like that. It was pretty bad. I think Hamburger Hill referred to the Army more than the Marines.
what Marine division or company were you with?
1st Battalion, 4th Marines, 3rd Marine Division.
And your rank, PFC?
I was PFC in that time.
So you're describing, James, some of the combat, and I do want to hear these stories.
Right.
Did you lose any close friends, wounded or killed during your tour there?
Oh yeah, quite a bit.
Were you with them at the time? Can you tell me a couple stories? Or?
Well, a lot of the friends I was with, you're with them, but you're not with them. Or they might be in the squad. You may be like Mr. Ochoa, Carlos Sergeant Ochoa. He got the Bronze Star. He didn't get hurt. My cousin, he didn't get hurt, even though everybody was killed in his platoon. except he didn't even get wounded. He got the rifle blown out of his hand. And he was at the rock pile that was close to Quezon. And he, as my friends would get hit, but when they get killed, I had already been wounded, and I helped carry a lot of my friends that were wounded. I didn't know what happened to them after. Like when we were doing Jilin, not Jilin, Gwen Tree, we're doing the base and we got attacked. They were real bad. And they had given me a week of rest because I'd been in country for 8 months. And I didn't have my boots on. I was relaxing in a cot, an actual cot, and we got attacked. And the guy next to me, he had holes through here, but he wasn't dead. They had 19 killed that day, and I don't know how many wounded. And I helped carry 2 guys, and I found the guy running next to me went flying through the air, and I went looking for him. That's when I got wounded, and I don't know. I found out that he only had a week to do there, and he was hurt pretty bad in the back, but he lived, as far as I know. I went back and found some of my friends that were laying on the cots, bloody, and I carried them to the corpsman, but the corpsman, they couldn't come because there was so much fire going on. So they medevaced me, and they medevaced them, and I didn't see him no more until about 5 years ago. One of them come walking up to my work and asked me if I remembered him. And he said, "You're the guy that saved my life." He said, I didn't know who he was until he told me.
Was that an emotional time?
Yeah, that was. He came all the way from Washington State to find me. I don't know how he found me.
And you saved his life.
Yeah, he said, "I woke up and you were carrying me, and all I could see was your little feet running with me." I said, to me, that made me feel good. He was Corporal Jimenez. It was things like that, different things of war.
Did you ever get a Bronze Star?
Oh, no.
Purple Heart?
Purple Heart, yeah. Bronze Stars they would give for people that really did stuff, except now they don't. But
when you're in Vietnam, during your tour, are you in the jungle, in the field? Are you holding a line? Do you advance? What were some of the objectives that you had? Did you do search and destroy missions?
Search and destroy, mostly sweeps, because you would have your base camps, and they were pretty much secure in them, but you would get, it was like the fort in the old days, but they would be able to shoot artillery rounds and rocket rounds and mortar rounds in there. In the day you'd go out and do sweeps or recon and stuff. In the night you'd go into ambushes and do ambushes where you would find probable cause to do them. And then in the morning you retreat back to the base. It was funny. It wasn't like I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be more like when they had World War II and they had the front line and they'd charge each other and everything like that. It wasn't. You never knew when you were going to get hit. You never knew when something was going to happen, no matter where you were. And we weren't in big towns or nothing. We were in our camps by ourselves,
Did you ever have to walk point?
Oh, yeah, plenty of times.
Isn't that dangerous?
Oh, yeah.
Did you draw fire at those times? Or?
The most memorial time that I drew fire. It was from our own artillery that seen us and didn't know it was us, and they started hitting us with artillery, which is pretty bad. But that was at that same place by where we're making base camp for Ashaw Valley. That was a bad place, and we had a lot of dead people. We came upon on one patrol. We were skirting the road to that camp, and we heard gunfire at the road, so we went to help. They told us, radioed us to go help. Got there, we found a 6x truck full of Marines that were just ashes where they had been ambushed. Just the time we got there, we only found one survivor.
Is there a lot of pride in the Marine Corps? I know there is, but when you're in combat, are you conscious of fighting for God and country, or is it just a matter of survival?
It's a little of both. You go there for God and country. When you're there, it's survival, but the training they give you, it's Marine Corps training, which is different. I remember one particular instance in the DMZ that our whole squad was pinned down, and we couldn't move one way or another. And we'd been there for hours, and all of a sudden we hear these horrific yells and everything else, and it was the Marines coming to our rescue again from the rest of them, and they looked ugly. They just ran past us towards the enemy. And I guess that's part of being a Marine. They went right past us. We were pinned down, but they just swept past us like if there was nothing out there. That was a pride. That was Marine Corps. And
so when you're in combat, I mean, you're looking out for your buddies. Tell me about the camaraderie that you shared, the brotherhood.
Well, I had some experiences over there, which is not, you have a camaraderie that you do what you're supposed to do, what you're trained to do. I had experiences over there. When we got out of Jilin, we were coming on convoys towards Phu Bai. And the people I was in the 6x truck would get the sea ration cans, and we're tossing them at the little kids and breaking their heads open. And you could see the corpsmen trying to, and I got mad at the people that were doing that. So they kind of branded me an outsider. And a couple of weeks later, they threatened to kill me. And I told them simply, you just threatened me in front of a lieutenant. They threatened, I'll go shoot you, I said, well, you better not load your rifle even pointing at me, or I'm going to start shooting. Lieutenant immediately took me and reassigned me to another platoon. But that kind of followed me around, that, I had 2 or 3 different instances where I was jumped, but I knew how to defend myself. So I got that, but it was all because of that kind of, and I don't know, I think it was the anger that they had from losing buddies, and they were taking it out on the innocent kids. Sometimes they'd get their grenade launchers and flump into a village as we were passing. And we weren't fighting them. I told them we were there to help, not to do things like that. So I had to watch my back, but we we were tight, in other words, you know, in that new platoon. I remember my 21st birthday. We were in the jungle, and I said, here I am, 21 years old. I can't even have a beer. And there was a tank that was assigned right next to us. And he got me a hot beer and said, here, for your birthday. And I shared it with the fire team. And that, to me, that was something different.
When you're a young man in combat, do you ever feel like nothing can happen to you? Do you feel invincible, like nothing can happen to me, and then all of a sudden you realize you could get killed doing this? Did you ever feel like that?
Yes, you do get a feeling like that, that nothing's going to happen to you, and then when you see it happen to other people that are near you, it's just, you know, it's just weird. It's just weird. I did get caught out in the open a few times, and we were getting barrages, and I don't know how I was saved. The shrapnel's hitting all around me, and but there's people that I'd met plenty of people, and there's one there named Sergeant Brewer that every time the incoming would come or we got hit, he would go to where it was hitting the most to try and rescue people. And everybody else would take cover, except he would do that. And I think he went to the loony bin, but he re-upped, and I talked to his wife when I got back in Oceanside. He said, no, he went mental. So there's different types of people there, different types of people.
James, what do you think causes someone to kind of lose it? I mean, you got through it, you know, and I don't know what happened after the war. I may ask you a question, but why do you think some men just lost it mentally? I mean, what was so bad? Just the uncertainty of it, or just combat in general? What do you think?
Well, I remember one corporal that was in charge of, we were on a hill west of Fubai, and the heat, the weather, the constant going out, and not really advancing. You know, it's the same old grind, the same old. You go out there and then you leave it. We go out there in a day. I mean, you know, literally go out there and do what we had to do, and be out there all day, and then come back, and then we'd give it back to them at night. You know, that created stress. I remember that this particular corporal, they sent him. He was a good soldier, a good Marine. He went one day. They went out on a patrol, 10,000 meters, which is a long way, out in the hot sun, and they got hit. So they asked him to come back in, and after they come back in, they're going to send him back out again, and he lost it. They said, no. And they send him away. You know, they send him back to the rear because of that stress and everything else. Combat fatigue, they called it. But what triggers it, I really don't know. There's so many things. I know when after I got wounded, they had to order me out of the field because I was at the DMC. I took a chopper because I didn't want to be at the rear. I wanted to be with the guys. And I couldn't wear a helmet because I had my head wound, and my head felt like a watermelon. And I went to the corpsman to ask him for medicine for the pain, and he asked me, what are you doing here? Well, I said, I came to fight. And anyway, there was a lieutenant colonel there in charge of medics, and he told me, if I see you out here one more time, I'm going to put you in the brig. I'm going to court-martial you. He said, you're endangering everybody else. So that was, I only had about 2 months to go by that time. So
Can you tell me briefly what happened when you were wounded, where you were? Was it shrapnel, bullet? Tell me again what happened.
it was in Quantry. We got hit by mortar rounds and everything, and small arms fires they attacked the base, and I was with my friends laying down a cot, and so we tried to go down to the front lines, and I got wounded on when we were going down there to the front lines. They were about 100 meters away from where I was staying at that time, and I remember my friend getting blown up, and he was fireballs hitting everywhere, and him flying through the air. And then I asked myself, why am I running? I should be crawling. So I went looking for him at the bunkers, and I crawled in there. I couldn't find the opening, but I finally got in there, and I told him I was wounded, because you really don't feel the pain of nothing. You don't feel. It's just because I knew I had blood. I couldn't feel the pain. And I crawled in there, and I told him I was wounded, and everybody else said, so bye. I asked him, where's this guy, the one that was running with me? Have you seen him? He said, no. So I crawled out and went looking for him again out there. We were still under fire and everything else. So I didn't have my boots on, nor my helmet, or nothing. So I had to go back to him. That's where I found I found one guy that was wounded. I don't even know who he was. He was an African American. So his leg was shattered. I picked him up, and I started walking towards where I knew the corpsmen were, but I could hear them, but they couldn't come because it was so intense a firefight. So I got this guy back up to where my helmet and stuff was, and that's when I seen my buddy laying in a pool of blood. And he's the one that had it all the way up and down. So I opened his mouth to check and see if he was alive. And he was alive. So I grabbed him, and I grabbed the other guy, and I finally got to the corpsman. And that was it. It was something you do. He treats you to do,
Did these memories bother you after the war, or did you just forget about them, or can you forget about them?
No, you can't forget. Bothers me the most of that little kid I killed, I guess, the stare I got from the grandma. Going to help sometimes one time I had to identify people that were in our company that were dead, see if we could ID them, because they had left them out there for a few days, and they had maggots crawling in their nose and stuff like that. That gets to you, you know. Another friend of mine that stepped on a mine, he died. I don't know why he died, because he was a weightlifter, and he went and made some weights over there, and his name was Private Hernandez, and he shouldn't have died. He just, because his leg was messed up, and he was one of these body beautiful guys, he died. And he was a good friend of mine, and I couldn't understand that when I found out that he died.
When you said you don't understand why he died, because of those wounds, or just because he was such a strong guy?
Because he was a strong guy, and the wounds weren't life-threatening. But in his mind, he was Mr. Body Beautiful, So I could never understand things like that, why you couldn't have the will to live.
When you told me when you first came to Vietnam, you saw these guys coming home, and they looked dirty and tired and all this, and then you're fresh, you're new, and then you start going through this, don't you?
Yes, exactly.
And you're going through this year in Vietnam, and you're going through these experiences, and do you become hardened?
Yes,
And then when you were leaving Vietnam, you remember the day you left
I
Vietnam?
remember.
Can you tell me about that day? And then again, you were walking out, and the new guys were coming in.
Yeah, I could see their faces. They were well shaven because the Marines made you shave every day, but they were young, fresh, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, and I remembered the day I was going there, and that's exactly, and I'll always remember that. But now I was the one that was all dirty and all. I said, I wonder if I look. They actually, what I thought to myself when I was going, that these are the ugliest, meanest guys I've ever seen. But they had that look in their eyes, you know. It was just like death, like, you know. And
So were you counting down your days to your last day, and then you got to go?
yes,
Was it a happy time or kind of a letdown, or what was it? What do you remember feeling?
well, it was a happy time, and yet a time that you never thought was going to get there. And when it got there, I don't know, you feel like you were leaving people behind. I still, you know, think of I left people behind. I have my, in there I still have my short timer calendar in there. I'll show it to you. It's that I mark day after day. It's the little calendar they sent me from my mother, but I still have it to this day.
When you came home, was it hard going back into civilian life?
Very hard.
Explain that transition.
Well, you're on edge. You're a jumpity. Your loud noises bother you. People bother you. Can't. You're for years and years. I still have nightmares, but when you first get here for in that time of years, hard for you to be around people. You just change completely. You know. You want to be to yourself. You want to not have anything to do with your family or anything, and it affects you. It affects you as a person. Like my brother said, you used to be happy-go-lucky. Not no more. I actually lived in a tent, me and my wife and kids for months, and I think that helped. You know, I really do, because we lived out in the woods, not because we had to. I don't know why, because I felt more at home. My wife, I guess, she went along with it, but you know, I wonder now why, you know, as I grow older, why did I do things like that?
How old are you now?
I'm 61.
Okay. And so there's things that bring back Vietnam: sights, smells, sounds.
Sounds, songs, a lot of things, everyday things. Chopper flying overhead, gray day like today.
Did you have much interaction with helicopters in and out of landing zones or anything?
Not that much. We would mostly walk in. Few helicopters, but usually when we hear the Marines hear choppers, it's because they're coming to our rescue or something. You know, it's you know, when
Like a medevac flight, maybe, or
medevac, yes, medevacs, and we didn't have a lot of choppers like the Army or maybe even we had the Puff that would come and help us a few times. But but we didn't have any. The choppers usually meant death, and we didn't want to see those. In that one camp where we had a lot of action, they had to resupply us by choppers because we were getting ambushed too often, and too many deaths on the road there. And up north, in Quezon, in those places we'd get choppers, to come and leave supplies, or they'd be go leave big old cranes. They had like cranes that they would take different things out there.
Have you ever been to the Vietnam Wall in Washington, D.C.?
No, I've been to the one that they brought locally. No, I don't travel too much. I don't.
So you came home from the war, and did you receive a homecoming, or was it uneventful? You come home, you're okay?
I came home. I was in casual company in Pendleton till I got released, and then just got on a bus and came home. Nobody met me, nothing. That was uneventful. Knocked on the door, went in. That was it.
Was your family proud of you and what you did?
Yeah, I think they were. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were.
Are you proud to be a Vietnam veteran, James?
Yes, I'm very proud.
Have people thanked you for your service?
Yes, people have. People have thanked me. Thank you. People you don't even know just say thank you, and that helps. That helps more than anything that you can imagine when strangers tell you thank you. And I know war's not good, but for the people that go down there, it's the thanks is at least that they should receive, the very least.
Tell me what freedom means to you. As a veteran of this country and as an American citizen, tell me what freedom means to you.
Well, I'm a political activist in a lot of sense. And freedom means choosing the people that represent you. It means trying to make a better life for yourself. I think maybe we're getting away from that, and I know that freedom is something that's we've wanted for this country for many, many years, and different peoples from different countries have fought to get their freedoms. And to me, it means that I'm representing my race and trying to get freedoms for the people that will come after me, so that they won't have to go to war, so they don't have to suffer. But there'll always be wars, I guess, and somebody's going to have to suffer. But if they could minimize it, because it doesn't get you nowhere. Look at Vietnam. All those people that were killed there, and yet the communists took over, and now we're friends. So I can't understand the logic of losing so many good men, good people, that for what? If we should negotiate peace, it would be beautiful if we could.
Tell me about the price for freedom, the cost of freedom to protect our freedoms. And you saw men die, they were wounded. So tell me about the price for freedom.
I don't mind the price of death. of dying for freedom. No, and I'd rather have it happen to me than to somebody else. But when we're dying and there's still not freedom is when it hurts. When you see the same things happening over and over again, it hurts, that there's going to be more people sacrificing. And there's ways of dying besides actual death that hurt people. And I can understand going and dying when it's in vain. There has to be some solution besides death. But I know it's worth it. But one nation or any country shouldn't subject others to their view, because other people's views count just as much as mine. I remember a dead NVA soldier there that we had killed. We had to wash him, and I remember our soldiers kicking him and stuff like that. I was appalled at that because he died for his beliefs just as well as our soldiers were dying for theirs. And they had to respect that soldier just like I would want them to respect our soldiers.
What does the American flag mean and represent to you, James, as a veteran?
It represents freedom, more freedom than in any other country. It represents togetherness, a blending of cultures, a blending of ideas. And it represents a symbol of hope of all those people have died for it and are still to come, that we can make a better world for everybody, not just us. And as a nation, we're not bad people. But we see the ugly side of things most of the time because of the politics of things. But just like there's good nations somewhere else under other flags, we're a good nation. We're a good nation.
What do you think our country should remember about Vietnam?
Well, first of all, remember the people that died there trying to bring freedom to a country. Try to remember that war doesn't solve everything. And as a nation, don't let brutality take over the kindness of your heart, which we try and go to other countries and help them. And to me personally, when we go out there, we go to help. But sometimes war turns your soul into something ugly, and you do things that are not what America stands for.
Are you a religious type person? Did you pray back during the war? I mean,
Oh yeah, religious. I got to the point where you can't pray because you feel you're over praying. In fact, I still got a prayer that they send me over there and right there, and that my mom sent me. I still have that. And I come from a religious family. I live with a pastor since I was 13, and that was one of the questions I asked Pastor is, why must I go to war if it says I shall not kill? And he said, it tells you that you must obey the laws of the land. the laws of the land. If you're a soldier, then you're obeying just the laws of the land. So that kind of put it in perspective for me. It kind of eased my mind. But as a religious person, I'm still religious, and I pray.
Why do you think you survived when a lot of people didn't?
Luck. That's the only thing I can say. And I have no idea. I could say religion, somebody's taking care of me, but there must be a purpose for my being here. I don't know.
Do you ever think back about boot camp and when you went to boot camp and you were fresh, you were young, and never been in combat, you were ready to go and gung ho, and were you being trained to go to Vietnam? Were they training you and saying you're
Yes.
going to be in combat? You know, they're going to try to kill you. Or were you learning to kill people in boot camp? I mean,
Yes. Well, that was all I learned. That was it. That was totally it. There's no ends, ifs, or buts. That's what they trained me to do, and that's what I went to do. Didn't want to be a Remington Raider. I didn't want to be nothing but a grunt. And that was the best way I can contribute to my country. I still get asked why, from people in Mexico, my friends, why did you go? Well, my grandfather went, my dad was in the service, my brothers are all in the service. And I went in the service, so. And I don't know if my kids, I don't know if they'll go, I don't know, but that's their decision. Patriotism, it's a big word, and I don't know how to describe patriotism. But this country's been good to me, so I just try and give back and then prove it. That's all I can do.
what does Veterans Day mean to you? Is that a special day for you? Or?
It's a sad day. It's a sad day because I remember the ones that aren't here, the ones that gave, and a lot of people don't realize what they gave. It's too commercial. It's getting commercialized. There's a lot of people out there with worse stories than me, with worse wounds than me. When I got back to stateside, I was in a casual company where all the woundeds go. And I seen a lot of their scars and things. And they were a lot worse than me. So I tried not to feel sorry for myself, but I knew that what they're going through was worse. And there's a lot of things they couldn't change without legs, arms, scars all over their face and back, and just mine aren't visible.
What would you say to Vietnam veterans today that maybe are going to watch this, or should they come forth and talk? I mean, why did you contact me to talk with me, and then what would you say to Vietnam vets today?
I would say let it out, talk about it. There's a lot of them who can't. I don't know why. The way I was brought up, if I learn something, I want to pass it on so the same mistakes won't be made. Not that I feel I still get the nightmares, I still get it, but it's something I can help my people realize that there's hope, that we didn't do it all in vain. There's suffering and whatever, it's not in vain. We should learn from it and be better from it. And I'm proud of them, for doing that, no matter what they did.
Why did you contact me? You read the article in the paper?
Yes.
What made you want to call me?
I had a lot of people tell me I should write about all my experiences, because I've had a lot of good experiences, bad experiences, weird experiences, and I do tell my friends so that they'll realize, hey, the war, what was it like, and maybe they could understand me. And they encouraged me, well, you ought to write a book or something. I remember Miss West worked at the post office with me. James, you ought to write a book because you've got a lot of good things to say. A lot of people can learn from you. So it's always been behind my back. Never had an opportunity, but you showed up and I thought, well, maybe I could unload some of what I know so that somebody else would feel better about it. The Vietnam, the vets now that are in the war, I think we know what they're going through. I wish they weren't there, but at the same time, I know that they're there fighting for some kind of freedom, just like I was. I didn't have a choice. They don't have a choice once they got there, but just do the best they can and hope they come back.
Yeah. Was this hard for you to talk today, or were you pretty much ready, or were you nervous about it, or?
It's nervous. It's hard. It's brings back memories that you don't like. I think about them anyway. So all the time, and I just need people to understand that what people go through. War isn't a bed of roses or anything like that. It's hard. It's something that you'll never get rid of.
So you maybe feel a little better after talking today, or do you feel like you did accomplish something here?
Well, as good as I can feel, as good as I can, but it's still going to be there. It's not going to go away. It's not going to go away. I just hope somebody gets something better out of it than, without experiencing.
Well, there's an understanding about veterans now more. Through my first documentary, people are understanding more about Vietnam veterans, and that's good. And the project I'm working on with you and others, so that's my goal, is to help people understand, and even families to understand.
Yes, because if families don't understand, they know, hey, well, you were in the service, you got a Purple Heart, but they don't understand the emotion in you. I try and explain it to my kids, hey, sometimes it's an anger, sometimes it's the different emotions that come out of a person. We have a lot in us that comes out at different ways, and people have to understand that and not judge us too badly, I hope, for what comes out.
James, at the end of my interviews, I always ask the veteran to give me a salute into the camera. When I ask you, could you look into this camera and give me a salute?
Yes, sir.
From where you're seated right there? Okay, just look into the camera. Go ahead, sir. Great, thanks.